The Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 1. Spanning from 2008 to 2012, these 6 films laid the groundwork for the massive success that was the MCU. And rightfully so, because while these 6 films are perhaps not the strongest of the MCU, they come together to form the foundation of what other directors then took and made even better. So, after having just recently seen all 6 MCU Phase 1 films, I thought I'd make this video to quickly summarize my general thoughts and feelings towards these films. First of all, let's get the glaring negative out of the way. The villains are pretty terrible in almost all of these films. Even the best villains like Red Skull are generally only buoyed by strong performances. There is no real underlying motivation behind most of them, and the fact that the best villain, Loki, was used in 2 of the movies should tell you just how bad the rest of them are. I don't think it was that Marvel intentionally tried to make bad villains. I honestly think that this was a smart move actually, because in order to build up a film like the Avengers, they needed strong heroes and not necessarily strong villains. I think Kevin Feige was fully aware of this and was willing to sacrifice their villains in order to sustain their leads. And that's one of the brilliant things about these origin story films. They really spent a lot of time building up their main characters and protagonists, like I alluded to in my last couple reviews. The amount of care and effort given to each one of their characters is outstanding and deserves to be recognized and commended. It's the reason that we feel so much at the end of Endgame as these arcs come to an end, because these characters were built up so incredibly well. And yes, while there are hits and misses here and there, you know what? At the end of the day, I love all these characters, even if the stories that they were in may not have necessarily been the best. Yes, we will never see Edward Norton play the Hulk again, and yes, the Thor in the first Thor film isn't great. By the time they had gotten to the Avengers, they had built up 6 individual heroes, some more than others, and they were ready to mesh. Another interesting aspect of this phase of the MCU was that all of the films had a unique visual style to them. Iron Man felt very real and modern, sleek, while Hulk felt gritty and dark, and Captain America maybe felt a little more optimistic. But what was even more interesting to me was that all of these films felt so incredibly grounded. We're about to see in the coming Phase 2 that Marvel is ready to lift off a little and explore some CGI-heavy extraterrestrial space adventures, and that's going to really be a defining characteristic in Phase 3. But right now, these films were very much based on Earth, with the exception of some scenes in Thor. Do I think that this is the weakest phase? Absolutely. But I also think that this is the most important phase of the MCU. Without these movies working on some level with a general movie-going audience, there would be no endgame for us to enjoy 11 years later. The goal with Phase 1 was to build a foundation, a rock-solid base on which to build up the rest of the MCU. What makes them so great is that Kevin Feige was not so concerned with making an Avengers film right away. He just wanted to make one good film after another, and it shows. We saw in a film like The Amazing Spider-Man 2 what happens when you only look ahead without looking at the film that you're making in that moment. While I can pretty confidently say that I would rather not watch about half of this phase again, I think that even films like Iron Man 2 and Thor are essential to the DNA of the MCU. The odd man out is, of course, the Incredible Hulk, and I still believe that if you know the Hulk origin story and the basic mechanics of how he hulks out, then there's really not much need to watch this film, especially since he gets replaced in the Avengers. Of course, I may amend that statement if Thunderbolt Ross turns into the Red Hulk later, but we'll have to see about that. And while many people don't think that this phase has many advantages over the other 2, I think that there is one thing that this phase does so much better. I think that the culmination, which is the Avengers, is the best example of the preceding films linking up and connecting to one point. What I mean by that is, when you get to Age of Ultron, it's a little confusing as to why these heroes are even together at all. And it's not even explained in the films, it's actually explained in an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Infinity War tried to do the same, and it did so with remarkable success, but at that point the MCU was so massive and there were so many films in Phase 3 compared to Phases 1 and 2 that it just couldn't quite neatly package everything together, although I think it did it well enough anyway. With the Avengers, you have 6 distinct members of the team, each in their own trajectories, that are forced to band together in a seamless, beautiful way. That's why the first Avengers film will always be special, and why Phase 1 will always have a special place in the heart of any MCU fan. Those were some quick thoughts on the MCU Phase 1. Which Phase 1 film was your favorite out of the 6? Comment down below and let me know, and also make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. Check out the description to see the playlist for the previous 6 Infinity Saga rewatch reviews. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.